Hi, my name's Louise and today we're going to talk about the main patient screen within Dawn AC. The idea of this screen is that everything you need in terms of dosing the patient and making decisions for them is all contained within the one place. So there's no need to scroll down lots of different pages, lots of button clicks. There's a lot of information contained on this screen, and what we're going to do is cover the four main areas. So we have the top left section of patient details, bottom left of notes, bottom right of history and top right of dosing. So we're going to look and see what's contained within each section. In the top left section, first of all, we have our main patient details. Now, at the very top of the main patient screen, you do have a patient identifier. You can see the patient's name and their date of birth, identifying numbers and address details, and that will always be there so we can see quite clearly what patient we're looking at. And in the top left section, we have what we call a treatment plan summary. So we have the patient's primary diagnosis, their target range, their start date, their regime, and any risks that the patient might have as well. You can see there just at the bottom there in red. What we can also do is optionally attach a patient photograph. Now what you can also see on this top left section is a green and red bar. That's what we call the percentage time in range bar, and that's giving us the percentage time in range overall so far for this patient. Now the default amount of time is the last 365 days. That can actually be changed. So what we can do is actually hover our cursor over the time in range bar to actually see what percentage of time the patient has spent in range, indicated in green, time above range, indicated in red, and time below range, indicated in blue. What we can also see on this screen are things like patient age and their preferred clinic and phone number. What we also have in this section is the risk class for the patient, where we can define whether the patient is a high risk patient versus a medium risk or a low risk. And these are all drop down options which can be changed at any point. The bottom left section of the patient screen is primarily a notes section. Now we have two separate types of notes here. We have our top box. These are what we call our permanent patient notes. These are notes that we always need to see for the patient, regardless of when they come in. So for example, patient a bit deaf, patient colourblind, anything that you always need to see, you can pop into that box and it will always stay there, it will always be visible on the patient screen. Just underneath that, we have a slightly different type of notes. And these are what we call the quick notes. These are actually time and date stamped and are really designed for things like between clinic visits. Let's say that a patient calls and tells you they've missed a tablet, or anything involving the patient between visits that you want to log. We can add a new quick note on here just by clicking on the blue form icon with the yellow star, and that will give us a date and time stamped note. It will also tell us who's actually written the note, and it will always display the most recent note at the very top of the screen. So let's have a look at the top right section of the patient screen. You can see we have lots of tabs on the top right section, but we use this primarily for the dosing, which is the tab we're highlighted now. So this is where the INRs get entered, and this is where our doses and next tests are suggested and amended. So we can see there in this particular example we've got an INR in there, and we have a suggested dose and a suggested next test as well. We can also do things like print letters from this top right section on the letters tab. We can log things like recent events the patient's had. You can see there's a red exclamation mark on the events tab for this particular patient. That's indicating there is a recent event entered. We can enter in things like drugs, procedures, and we can also attach documents as well. So moving down into the bottom right section, this is again primarily where we'd look at the patient history. So the tab we're on at the moment on this screen is looking at the previous historical visits for the patient. So on here we can see things like the date, we can see the INR results, we can see the dose instructions. We've also got a percentage time in range bars. You can see the red and green bars scrolling down the page. That's actually giving us the percentage time in range between visits. What we can also do within this bottom right section is we can have a look at the graph tab. So if we want to see the INRs and the doses in the form of a graph, we can do that. And we also have our personal information, and that's just the patient demographic information. So name, address, contact details, etc. So just to recap, the main patient screen is roughly split into 4 sections, but the idea being is that everything you need is here on the screen at your fingertips.